welcome back to Talk Spicy to Me. We apologize for our 2 week hiatus. We were lifing and TikToking and reading. So, we are back and we are ready to talk about all the things. So, what you reading, Brie?
Jesus, I had to think about that. But I'm listening to Club 22, which is book 3 in the Hades series by Tate James. I'm
Yeah.
addicted to that world in the best way. Um, and I am reading. I feel like I'm reading so much. I did. I did finish an arc. It was. I'm looking it up. Reckless Love by Nicole Green. That was really good. That was
That was
student professor.
Professor.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, the
Dr. Locke.
professor. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
You need to read it. There's like a desk scene. Just it's good. Um,
That's what I look for when
yeah.
I hear Professor Student. I'm like, it's got to be at least one death scene.
And she's a curvy heroine, and I loved her point of view. But yeah, it's really good. And then I honestly don't know what to actually read next, but I'm gonna continue listening to audiobooks. So
Nice.
I mean, well, you can't go wrong with listening to an audiobook. So,
True.
yeah.
What
So,
about you, Jazz?
I'm reading, I just started Seduction by Ivy Smoke, which is another student teacher, Professor James Hunter and Penny. This is like it's also they had their first like the first part of their series, and then it skipped a couple of years, and then this one is kind of like that middle book. And I think like when you read it, like they fill in all the little parts you've been missing between like the gap. Um,
Oh,
so I
Professor
love it. Like
Hunter. Oh,
when
Professor
you
Hunter.
already know how Ivy does with the scene. Like I think I'm in the first chapter, and it's already
Brie, have you
like
read the Hunted series?
no,
Okay.
I haven't.
You need to read the Hunted
yes.
series. Start at the beginning. Temptation, I believe, is the first one. You want to
Yes.
talk about professor and student and a desk
Oh my
scene.
gosh, that is.
There are
Mm.
two desk scenes.
That for sure one of my favorite student professor
James Hunter,
series.
if that man was real, the things that I would do to him, let alone let him do to me.
I'm honestly
Lord
just trying to
have
figure
mercy.
out
Like
where I went
up
wrong in
against
life
a
to not be a
tree,
professor like that.
like out in the rain.
Same.
Literally, you will not look at like rain boots. It's just gonna like you're gonna want to go and get you a pair.
That's why
Like
I
Heather
got my
did.
pair.
You're gonna want to go and get you a pair of Hunter rain boots
I got
so
the
you
red
can be
pair of
Penny.
Hunter Rain boots for Christmas last year because of this series. And it's so funny because before Jazz read it, I was like raving about this series, and everyone was like, Heather, get over it. And I'm like, no, you guys have to all read it. And then they read it and they were just like, oh, we get it now.
Yeah.
I'm with
But yeah.
you
So
though. I honestly don't know where I went wrong because I went to college. I attended class.
like
There was just
I
not
went and then I
the
went back
same
again.
experience.
I went to
No,
5 years of college because when I transferred, they told me that all of my credits didn't transfer.
that is
So
literally
I
the
had to add
worst.
another year.
Like
At no point did I see anybody remotely worth blinking at, let alone
none. And
having
I'm just like
sexy
I don't
times
like
with.
was I living in the wrong state? Like I don't
Maybe
understand.
I was in the wrong major. And I've questioned that on more than one occasion. But in this
You know?
instance,
I could see that.
I can see that. Maybe I did pick the wrong major.
I mean, like, my Italian teacher was hot, but he didn't speak English.
you know what? I think we should have just studied abroad. That would have solved a lot.
Yeah,
Can we go
for
to
sure.
Paris? Let me go to Paris.
We. Wait, hang on. What were we talking about?
We're talking about what Jazz is reading or
Oh,
listening
yes.
to.
That is what I'm reading. um, and then I'm listening to Fable of Happiness Book 2 by Pepper Winters. And oh my gosh, I can already, like, this is only my second book, but even when I was like halfway through the first book, I was like, yeah, this is the kind of author I'm just going to need to go and like binge all of her stuff. And I'm like, I've been seeing her name around for a while. And knowing me, I probably have like one or two or a couple of her books on my TBR, but like this audio is so good. Heather is like I told you, it's Beauty and the Beast vibes, which is like right up your alley. And so it's like it is Dove Con
Ooh.
just all up and through here. And I'm just like I'm like double like side eyeing myself like so you okay,
You
Frederick?
okay?
You okay?
You
I
have
love
like
it.
the little angel and devil on each shoulder,
Yeah.
like checking in but encouraging it.
Do it. Do it.
I am like obsessed. I love this series. So yeah. Cassie and Gemma, I love them.
Fun. I am reading Watch Me Rain by Casey Keene. It is the last. It is the last one, right? In
In
the
in
in
that
this
series,
particular
yes.
series. I was supposed to apparently have gotten it for an arc last month, and I never did. But I did get the email that said, "Hey, drop your links here," and so I started to scramble. So I am reading that right now. But I loved the series so much that like it's so good. Like Jagger and Jameson
Oh
and
my god,
Leo and Ezra
love
just
him.
I can't wait to read it. Y'all have
all of
raved about
them.
it.
They are delicious. So I am reading that, and then I just started listening to Void for our buddy listen. So I am super excited about that, which kind of like segues into like what we wanted to talk about this month anyway, because it's May. So we're talking about fated mates for May. Um, and
In
I
case that wasn't clear.
we don't have to go spell that out. No,
Yes, mate.
I am obsessed with that trope. I love it. I think that it's so cool just to kind of like pull yourself out of like a norm or like societal norm and know that biologically you were made for somebody else. Now, whether or not you know that somebody who shifts or somebody who has powers, like that just kind of makes like all of the extra elements come into place. But I love this trope nonetheless. And
Oh,
I'm
it's
excited.
so amazing. Um, with Fated Mates, I know that just like you said, I've read a lot of shifter romances where usually one or both are werewolf shifters or any kind of animal shifters, and they have a fated mate.
Yes.
And that's usually how they tell it is when they were born, their soul was split in half, and they have to
Oh.
find their other half of their
Oh.
soul. Um,
Oh.
and then I've also read, different kind of fated mates where it's fairies or other beings or monsters or however they want to label it. And it could be multiple mates like reverse harem or menage or anything like that. And like
Mhm.
I'm down for all of the fated mates. Um, and then in this same sense, there's also rejected mates, which plays on the fated mates where that person was rejected by the person they were supposed to be with, and they either do end up with them where the challenge is actually proving that they should be together, or there's something else at play where they're gonna get a different ending. And
Mhm.
there's so many good ones. But I know that Jazz, you actually haven't read too many, so
Yeah, I don't.
why? Just why?
I honestly don't know if I've read any like faded or rejected mates because like we all like Buddy read or Buddy listened to like the Ruthless Boys, but like from y'all because that's like y'all thing. Would that fall under there? I know it had like kind of aspects of
Yeah,
like mates and stuff, but I know it also had a lot of other stuff going
it would
on too.
absolutely fall under fated mates because, like, not Gabriel, uh,
Leon,
Leon,
because I remember asking y'all.
they
Side note, how is this gonna
were,
work in
um,
a reverse horror?
they were fated mates. But the thing for me, because I mean, I've been reading fated mates for years. Like my first real experience with it was with Laura Lee's The Breed series. So I mean, that's going back almost 10, 12 years, I think, at this point. I never knew that Fated Mates did RH up
Yeah.
until very recently. Like, when you told me Fated Mates, it was two. Two people destined to be together,
Right.
and, like, that was it. Up until I think, like, maybe last year or the year before, did I learn that, they were branching out to do RH and you could have multiple mates and Oh, good for you, girlfriend. Um,
Right?
so
Lucky.
I think that that's a new aspect for me when, like, you're saying that all of the paranormal and fantasy books that you have read with fated mates in them have all been our age. So I think that that might be something new to try too.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I haven't read one where it was just like you said, just two. Like so
Hmm.
far, it's been like reverse harm, which I don't know, like where my hesitancy came in as far as like fantasy, fated mates, paranormal. I guess I just felt like I didn't think it could mesh well with romance in my head. But honestly, I actually, so far from what I've read, and I don't know if like the reverse harm part plays a big part in it. But honestly, the world building like that you always talk about, Brie, has been pretty interesting. Like, and Kim Lorraine's All the Queen's Men, like that was my very first paranormal RH. Oh my god, it was so good. I was literally just like, after I read it, I was like, so why have you been waiting so long to like get into this? It was so good. So, and then we did Ruthless Boys. And so I'm so fascinated by like what's going on in the world that like the spice and everything is great too. But I'm like, so we gonna save the world? Are they gonna be okay? Like,
And
tell me
that's the
more.
fun part. Like, I think that the fun
Yeah.
part about some of these books is it takes you out of that, norm of reality to where there is like, hey, the world's gonna end, but not in like the general sense of like the day after tomorrow or something like that. It's more like, the fairy court, or, werewolf shifters, and, vampires are coming to eat you, like, type of thing. Like, it's more of that imaginary that you can just escape from or escape to.
And I
Yeah.
feel like it's fun to read too, because you really never know like what you're going to get. Like we talk a lot about like different like formulas and recipes for tropes, but I feel like because it's like paranormal and fantasy, they can kind of like authors can kind of like switch it up and just like you really never know like what you're getting in this book compared to like the other ones that you've read. Like Heather, like what you even mentioning like with RH being a thing with it, like and you hadn't seen that initially when you were reading like Fated Mates.
And the D that can be really fucking big. Really big.
So it's funny that you guys say that because for me, I kind of take like the labeling a little bit more because I'll label like contemporary romance versus paranormal or fantasy romance. So already I'm looking at it as like that's its genre. And then I go into the subgenre or the tropes. So if I'm getting or looking at reading a paranormal or a fantasy romance, um, there's always going to be that aspect of like this big bad, whereas like in a workplace romance, it's not necessarily going to be a big bad, maybe
Right.
something that they have
Right.
to work on, like a conflict. But with paranormal and fantasy, there is that big bad, and it could be like the heroine or hero has to go on an adventure, or it could be that they literally need to save the world, like you were saying.
Hmm.
But I love that because then it can encompass so many more genres too. Because you got the mystery, you have the action, the adventure, the
Right.
romance, um,
Suspense.
suspense,
Yes.
right? And I
It
think
can be
that
enemies to lovers.
right, and
Well, most of
I
it
think
is, yeah, because they're
Yeah.
coming from, usually they're coming from either two different clans or two different,
Yeah.
you know, worlds or species or anything like that. Like, that's where, like, the cool part is, where love is love, and they kind of just mesh, and it doesn't matter, like, who your mate is. So I like
I
it.
like that, and I think also the world building. So I've read some really really detailed world building, which if it's done right, I appreciate it and I need that so much,
Hmm.
especially because I feel like for me, the main difference with fantasy and paranormal, fantasy is most likely going to be a different world or a different dimension, something where the entire world is made up.
Yeah.
Maybe something is reminiscent of our planet, but it's going to be an entirely different feel. Whereas, like, paranormal most likely is going to be our Earth, but a twist with that supernatural element. Um, so I just think that depending on how it's done and delivered, the world building is so important. And,
Hmm.
I think you said this earlier, the romance kind of does take a back seat for me where I don't necessarily need so much of it because I'm here for that entire world.
Yeah.
I'm here for the kinky alien sex.
Well, I think that's a
I mean,
different
that
genre in
doesn't hurt
itself.
either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
kind of fated mates in that series, but I'm just saying, wolf nodding, all of that, all not normal. I'm here for that.
Basically, I'm in the wrong dimension or planet, and I
Obviously.
have a
I'm just a
fated mate
different.
out there
I'm
somewhere.
not the normal. Like I should be a different species or something. Like, where's
I'll
my
have
I would
tail.
like to, yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'll
can
take a
do
I could
tail.
get
a
down with
tail.
being like a fae.
I'll take
Give me some
a couple.
fur.
Like
In
whatever
the
I got
morning,
to
my hair
do
looks
to
like Mufasa. We
get
could
that
totally go
person.
with lions.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
So, we are going to be listening to Void, which is another fated mates fantasy power out there in the realm. Were you hesitant about wanting to read this book, Jasmine, knowing that the amount of books that you have read in this genre were not as much as Brie and I?
So what's funny? I think when we first talked about reading this, I was hesitant because I was like, I have not read a single book like faded. Like I still like I haven't read a read that. So I was like, am I gonna like it? Like I kind of have to like. But now that I have like got into it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I can get with this. But at first I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, and then I'm just gonna be the odd person out. Like, but I don't know. Like it sounds good. The blurb sounds good,
It does.
and so I'm actually really excited for it. I'm always interested to see like what the powers are. Like you mentioned, like are they gonna be from like separate clans? Like what? Like I'm like interested in the world now. Like
Mm-hmm.
what it's gonna be like. So
We would never steer you wrong. Even though
Yep.
we haven't read this book, we would never steer you wrong.
yeah, I
I
feel
I
like
have
at this
listened to the
point,
first two chapters and I'm already there, so I'm excited.
I feel like at this point, like when y'all give me a book, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna just add it to the TBR. Like I don't even check the blurb or the reviews or nothing like that. Well, the spoiler checker in me does look for spoiler reviews, but that's just me.
You're
But
cheating.
I'm like, I can't help myself.
Yeah, when you guys
But
recommend something, I don't check the blurb, I don't check the
yeah,
reviews.
I just go
You
at
have to
it.
say something like, "Oh my god, that was knock your pants off." You know,
Right.
like
Yeah,
literally whatever you say, I'm like, "Okay, that's on my TBR and I added it last year." But thank you for
right.
reaffirming that it should be on there.
Yeah,
I
like
just
I
move
should
it
be
up a
reading
little
that.
bit, like.
Bump it up.
Yeah.
Let me see if it's an audio. Like that's literally like if it's an audio, y'all know I'm gonna get to it sooner than later. But if it ain't an audio, it might be on that TBR a little bit longer.
And that's what I'm finding too. Like I know that I struggled with audios before, and like I still don't listen to them at home so much. Just mom
You
like
have to keep your three kids alive, so that is
the
understandable.
tiny
Like
humans.
honestly, if it gets too quiet in your household and your story getting too good, you may like forget about your tiny humans, and the next thing you know, it's like,
Or it
Mom,
might
where's
not
the
be
song come
quiet.
from?
Yeah.
Like,
It
Yeah.
might be super loud, but she can't hear that. So
Yeah, no,
right.
exactly. Or, my 3-year-old could be like hanging from the rafters and like swinging on the ceiling fan. So I don't listen to them at home. But if I go into the office, which is, only partial, I will listen to them there all day long. And then on my drive while I'm alone, because I did make the mistake of trying to listen to like an audio with the kids in the car, but like it was like not at like a spicy part. It was just like a very random like, hey, they're all going out to dinner, this, that, and the other. And my oldest was like, yeah, mom, you need to put the music back on.
I never
He's like,
know though, like when those scenes are coming. So I can't listen to an audio with somebody in the
That's
car because I never
This was
know.
at the very beginning, so like I knew nothing was happening. Like I had just started it and was still at the very like introduction of the characters and everything like that. Like there was, I don't even think there was cursing in it at that point. Like it was very, very mellow. This particular book that I read,
Right, because I'm
I
like,
was
some
listening
books
to. It's
jump
not
right
all of
in,
them.
so.
But yeah, no, they weren't having it at all. So I was just like, okay, then let's put the music back on. But and then I have, without kids in the car, I have tried to listen to books with Christopher, and it's funny because I have trained myself now to listen to it faster. Thank you, Brie. Even though you listen at
Right.
a whole nother world,
I
that's
like right, like
but
your
and
speed is ridiculous.
he's yelling at me because he's like, why does he sound like, why do they sound like that? And I'm like, sound like what? Like, shut up, I need to pay attention.
You know,
He's
it's
like,
funny. My sister does the same thing because she's the only person who will sit in the car and she's like cool with me listening to my audiobook. But the only thing is, she starts to get into it and then she's like, "Tell me about it." I'm like, "Okay, ask all your questions because I'm trying to
I gotta
listen.
play.
You can't keep asking questions
I gotta,
in the middle of the listen."
like, I gotta listen to what they're saying. And at 2.0, 2.3, if I blink too fast, I miss
I'm gonna miss it. Like
the
there
Yeah.
goes my
entire
whole
scene.
chapter. Like
I have two ears, but they're both trying to listen. Okay.
Yeah, like, yeah, I can't pay attention to what you're doing over here. So,
right.
but yeah, no, he doesn't like how fast it is. But I have taught myself to listen faster. So I think that if I were to go back to like the 1.5 that I was at, I might fall asleep. So,
Yeah.
That's
With
why it's hard for me to listen to samples because I'm like, this sounds like molasses pouring out of
you
like
can't
a
speed
bottle.
up samples?
Not that I have discovered. If you
I haven't
can, somebody
discovered it
please
either.
let me know. But yeah, when people send samples, I'm like, I honestly can't give you any feedback because
I can't hear it. I'm not paying
it's
attention.
just so slow. Like I can't.
Like,
No,
I don't
that's
want to
true
listen to it.
though. Like I'd rather just buy it and hope for the best
Yeah,
because
Yes.
exactly.
like
I don't
I
even.
need
Yeah,
it
I
at
don't even
that
listen to
speed.
samples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. And
I usually will either, if y'all recommended it, then I'm just gonna like I'll automatically assume the story is gonna be good. So like now it's like narrators. Do I know these narrators? If I don't know them, and then like you said, Bree, I'm just gonna hope for the best.
I
So,
don't even pay attention to narrators until like more recently when you guys were telling me like who's
oh, I
the who
do.
of
Now,
narrators.
yeah. Now that I have
And
my favorites, I do.
Now that
well,
I have
I
met
think
them,
I think that I have
Want
a
to?
few favorites now, but in general, like if you were like, how many of Joe Arden do you have? And I'm like, I have no clue. I don't even know if I listened to him.
I honestly probably couldn't tell you, but I know if I see his name, I'm gonna instantly one click that baby.
I
Like,
have gone through Audible looking for Joe Arden books, even like from his very, very like early on ones to like now. And like, first of all, this the growth, but that man's voice, like sweet Jesus, like the Lord bless you in the most amazing ways with your vocal cords. Like, just say fuck to me, please, all day
like
long.
they literally
Like,
just
hey, what are you
amaze
doing?
me.
Fuck.
Like,
Yes.
No, I love oh my god, the name for the MK and Hades series, that guy,
oh,
Lucas
is it
Weber.
Lucas Webley?
I think
Webley.
Weber?
yeah,
Weber? Webley?
yeah. I love him in as
Well,
these
that's like
characters.
Troy Duran.
Oh
Yes,
my
him
god.
too.
That growly, like
Writer.
you know, ugh.
And it's so distinctive now. Like now, I feel like I can pick it up. Like if I just played a book and I'm like, oh wait, is this Troy?
Yes.
Troy this year?
Yeah.
Like,
And like
And
you know,
oh, they're so good.
he must have like had the most epic like growth spurt and
I
puberty
was just
session
thinking that.
of life. Like you know that he was in like fifth, sixth grade, and his voice just cracked and changed, and it was like, bam, you're a man now. Because that growl just doesn't come from like, oh, I'm just gonna talk like this all of a sudden. Like that came from when you were a kid, and it just grew into this beautiful.
Like he has a voice made for audio. Like
He has a
And I
voice.
think he recently found that out too. Because I think he's an older guy. Like I don't think
You're
he's
gonna
like
ruin my
in
image
his...
in my head. Stop.
No. I'm saying I don't think he's
I
in
know
his
it's-
20s.
look, I just think honestly, you say
When
older,
you say
I'ma just
older
think
to me,
George
I'm
Clooney,
thinking-
No, but
Idris
I didn't want
Elba,
to. I didn't
like-
want to give like a really bad guess because he kind of looks like he could be like early 50s.
I don't know. It's, like I said, you got.
Maybe 40s. Maybe 40s.
Look, you got
I'm
some nice 50s out there.
I'm
Okay?
gonna be 40 soon.
I will send you his photo and you can guess. Okay.
Heather, you know how those young ones do. They just assume everything is older.
I said older. Like I am a older 20-year-old, but I didn't give you any context when I said
You
older
are
before.
mid-20s,
you are
ma'am.
you are you are at that
mid.
quarter
Like, you are
century.
in the middle.
Okay, that was a bad example, but you know what I meant.
Good intention, bad execution.
Um, But what are some of your recommendations, Heather, for Fated
I
Mates?
can recommend the Ruthless Boys.
Oh, you can.
That's my recommendation because
I
that's the
like
only one
mess my
I've
computer up, throwing sticks at
Yes,
you. Good
Ruthless
God.
Boys of the Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti.
Yeah,
Yes.
Love it.
that's mine.
So I would absolutely say the Breed series by Laura Lee. 1,010%. Mind you, it's probably the longest series known to man. Like, I think it's like 27 books or something like that. That might be an exaggeration, but it is very long. Um, Fated Mates, like Ollie and her crew of gorgeous, lovely men from
Oh, I
the
love them.
Bonset High.
Just waiting for that audio.
Love
Just
them.
waiting for the
I
audio.
love them. But,
That's the series I want to be buried with. Like,
oh, okay. You are too young to be talking about death.
Right?
God.
So morbid.
listen,
Um,
we read dark romance on the daily. This is nothing.
this is true story. This is true story. And I
Yeah.
just came up with all of the I just did a TikTok with all of like the Fated Mates that I
You
love.
did.
Yeah,
And
10, right?
yes, I did have 10. Um and I can't think
But
of
just
more
go,
than the
there's
ones
your
that I
Rex
just talked
right
about
there.
off the top of my head right now. What about you?
Um,
The Elizabeth Briggs one.
yes. So the Elizabeth
Suncross,
Briggs.
Suncross, something else cross, twisted, upside down.
Star Cursed and Sun
First, thank you.
Crossed and Moon Touched. And then there's the fourth one coming out. Um, but that is an interesting one because that is rejected mates and fated mates intertwined, and we'll just leave it at
Oh,
that.
And it's
interesting.
yeah, you can't. Okay, yeah, you can't.
Okay.
Most
Um, yeah. Uh, so in general, though, it's funny because I actually started reading romance heavily on Wattpad, and this was at the time where Fated Mates was at its like peak because everybody was either doing fanfic for Jacob and Bella, or they were doing like fanfic for like Vampire Diaries. Um, so there was some amazing Fated Mates books
I have
on
gotten
Wattpad.
stuck on those like Facebook ones where it's almost like Wattpad, but you have to pay like 25 cents for a chapter or something like
Oh,
that.
is
And
it like
I'm
Kiss or
pretty
like
sure I
Radish or
paid like
something?
$15 for one book before because they give it to you by chapter and I need the whole book. Like you can't
They're
just give
so
me
addictive.
pages.
Well, and it's interesting though because if you try to find like where that book is from, the author most likely has it on Amazon. They just have the rights at that moment to put it on that app. Like Tijan
Right.
has a few on the app, but you can buy her books from Amazon for $4. You don't need the app.
Now
um,
I don't know
I,
what it,
I, will,
yeah,
I won't go anywhere near them because they literally pull you in and it's like
they
you're
do.
reading it
Oh
and
my
it's like
god.
shit, like I need to know what happened to this person. And then
or
all of a
or it's
sudden,
like
You know what's the worst is when they're not on Amazon, so you keep having to pay the money because some of them I went on there and that author is only found on that app, and I'm like, how much is
yeah,
it to get 3 coins again for the next
yeah,
chapter?
I
you gotta
know.
turn the page.
Um, but Nalini Singh has a traditionally published series, the Psy Changeling series, that my friend Maria recommended. I think you read a few of the books, Heather.
Hmm.
Um, that is heavy world building, and each book is a different couple, but it is romance, and
That's
that
what the Breed series
is,
is too.
huh? Yeah,
That's how the
yeah,
Breed series is. Like each couple is a different book,
yeah.
but
There's
very world building.
there's 20 books and more planned. 20 books out so far,
Oh,
and that is Fated Mates. Like every book that involves a shifter, um, it is Fated Mates because there's more species or more beings in that world besides shifters. Um, and then I'm trying to think. I mean, the reverse harems that we've mentioned.
Oh, the Evelyn Maynard series
oh, you talk about
that
that one a lot.
Yes. What
I
is
love that series. I love that series. I cannot scream it from the rooftops enough. Alec is the hottest gray, like morally gray asshole. And I'm like, I want more of you, please. More. And there's four
oh
of them.
That's okay. So the fact that we all love alpha holes, but in paranormal and fantasy books, it's a whole nother level because they're like literally an alpha in that alpha position,
They're
and it's like
growly too, like,
they have
Exactly.
every right and reason to be that alpha. So
Exactly.
yeah,
yes,
no, they
It's
are.
there's like you said, it's literal. Like
And some of them like
literally.
shift and eat things. So
yeah,
it's even more extreme.
it's very primal the quality of that alpha, and I'm like, I'm here for it.
I want it all. Want it all. So
So
I am
good.
excited to read this book. And then once we finish, we can come back and get your thoughts because I know that Brie and I automatically have like a, a step up because most of the time we're going to love it. But because it's so
Hmm.
new to you, I'm definitely curious on what you're going to think.
Yeah, like a
I'm
different
excited.
checklist maybe. Like I feel like when I go into it, it might be like I'm looking for this, or I know where this is going because of this. So I'm
You
interested to
always
see
know
how
where
you
it's
go.
going. I don't.
Right.
You're not allowed to.
Bree,
Yes.
you're always reading, but at the same time, your mind is also like, I need to figure this out.
My brain works faster than I try to. Like it just is like 10 steps ahead of me, and then by the time I get there, it's like, yeah, we knew that.
I don't understand. Whereas me, I'm like, God damn, where did that come from? Like left field.
Same,
Like you
same.
just got punched in the face, and it's like, what? Like her brother's uncle
Same.
base. What? No, no. So yeah,
I'm like,
you.
I never saw it coming. Like, I'm more shocked if I figured it out. I'm like, oh snap, wait,
Yeah,
I
okay,
same.
are you sure?
I
That's
just
not
I
what I
loved puzzles and mystery games growing up, and I actually read um I forget James Patterson's like murder mystery when I was like 9, like that series. So
thought. Oh
I've been a dark, mysterious heart from the start.
my god.
Mama C, we're gonna need to talk about what you were
Right.
allowing her to read in third grade.
I'm good.
um,
I'm good.
so we will reconvene after listening to Void and come up with more Fated Mate Rex for everybody.
Yes.
Sound good?
All right. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Hi,
y'all.
everyone.